Good afternoon, Chem Kids. This video is going to show you how to draw a VSEPR structure, but when it's an ion. To really understand this, you really needed to have looked at or understood how to draw a basic VSEPR structure that's not an ion. So I'm going to show you the basic steps, which are very similar, except we have to add two new things. We're going to begin with panel 1, getting the valence electron count. Nitrogen, there's 1 nitrogen times 5 valence electrons in group 5 for a total of 5. Hydrogen, there are 4 hydrogens times 1 valence electron each for a total of 9 valence electrons, which is an odd number. However, you take the charge of the ion and you include that with the 9. Now, I know that it says plus, but in chemistry, plus means losing an electron. So you actually subtract 1 electron for a total of 8, and that is your total need. Panel 2 is much the same. The nitrogen would be in the middle because there's only 1 nitrogen. And I'm going to give all the nitrogens 8 electrons, and I'm going to position the hydrogens all around as fairly and symmetrically as possible. The thing is that what's different is that I'm going to draw a bracket around the structure with the sign of the ion. That's what's different. In panel 3, we're going to clean that up a little bit. Bracket with the plus sign. And we're going to go around the central atom again for the total, shared, and unshared. We can see that this is a 4-4-0, which is a tetrahedral. And what we're going to do in panel 4 is we're going to get the name of this shape, which is a tetrahedral, and the bond angles are 109.5. And we're going to attempt to draw this as a tetrahedral. So the same way we did before, with 1 back, 1 forward, 1 on top, 1 off to the side. There's our pyramid. And we draw the brackets. So everyone, drawing an ion in VSEPR theory, drawing those structures are much the same as doing a basic VSEPR structure, except these 2 areas right here, which I'm going to highlight. So at the end of your total electron count, you're going to take into account the ion, and then in every single panel, you're going to draw the brackets. You're going to draw brackets. Okay, so I would summarize that as saying, when you have an ion, number 1, adjust total valence electron count in panel 1. And number 2, draw a bracket, not a parentheses, but a bracket with the ion charge in every panel. In every panel. Now notice that it's not just the last panel, but we drew these brackets at every single panel with the charge. And that is how you draw an ion. Now let's practice with a negative ion. We're going to try to do sulfate ion. Panel 1, valence electrons 1 times 6. Oxygen 4 times 6. For a total of 30 electrons, but we're going to add 2 electrons. This is sulfate with a -2 charge, so that is 32 electrons in total. Panel 1. Panel 2. Central atom is sulfur. The 4 oxygens go symmetrically around. There's no exceptions. There's no hydrogens or borons or aluminums, so everybody gets 8, including the oxygens this time. And of course, I'm going to draw my bracket around my structure. Let me make this bracket a little better. Okay. All right, now I'm going to count to make sure that I have 32. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32 electrons. Okay. Panel 3. I'm going to clean up this picture considerably. And I'm going to do that by drawing lines around the sulfur. But the oxygens still need their total 8 electrons. And remember, once you calculate this number 32 right here, that means that every single picture has to have 32 electrons. So all these oxygens still need those electrons. Now, you don't draw bubbles around those electrons because the only time you draw a bubble is when the electrons are around the central atom. Because that's to remind you that those electrons are going to push the others out of the way. But since these electrons are on an end, they're not going to push anyone out of the way, so we don't need to draw the bubbles. What I do need to do is draw my bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to draw my bracket around the sulfate ion with the negative sign. I'm going to do my total shared and unshared, which is 4 total areas, 4 shared, 0 unshared. And by this time, hopefully you know that a 440, the shape is called a tetrahedral. And the bond angles on a tetrahedral are 109.5 degrees. And we're going to draw 1 oxygen up, 1 oxygen back, 1 oxygen to the front, 1 oxygen to the side. We're going to include all those pesky little dots, which are hard to draw. And put my bracket. And that is my final picture. And again, if you want, you can connect and draw the pyramid, but you don't have to. That is how to draw an ion. So again, in summary, adjust the total valence electron count in panel 1, and finally draw a bracket in each panel after that with the ion charge in every single panel all the way to the end, and everything else is the same.